The only thing worse than being executed is having a botched execution. Hello and welcome to day 8 of Creepy History, where I uncovered chilling facts from the past during spooky season. And today we're talking about the death of Margaret Pole, the Countess of Salisbury. Margaret Pole was the daughter of George, the Duke of Clarence, who also happened to be the brother of King Edward IV and King Richard III of England. And George himself was actually executed in the Tower of London for treason, which would set a rather unlucky precedent for his daughter. Margaret had to navigate her way very carefully through the end of the War of the Roses and the rise of the Tudor dynasty. In 1501, she actually joined the household of Catherine of Aragon when she married Prince Arthur. However, when Arthur passed away, Margaret was dismissed from Catherine's household, but she would eventually get to rejoin the household after King Henry VIII married Catherine for himself. Henry was also the one to give Margaret the title of the Countess of Salisbury. However, Margaret's luck would change in the following decades when Henry VIII married Anne Boleyn. Margaret adhered to the Catholic faith, and she even offered to serve Catherine of Aragon's daughter, Mary Tudor, out of her own pocket. And this made Henry completely turn against Margaret. Things continued to worsen for the Pole family when Margaret's son Reginald wrote to Henry VIII to condemn him for his actions against the church. And Margaret's son Gregory was arrested when it was discovered that he was writing in support of his brother Reginald. And with all these implications of rebellion against the crowd, Margaret's oldest son Henry was executed for treason. Margaret herself would also be interrogated. In 1539, Margaret was then imprisoned in the Tower of London. 2 years later, in 1541, she too would be found guilty of treason and sentenced to execution by beheading. On the 27th of May, 1541, Margaret ascended the scaffold for her beheading. Typically, beheadings were meant to be a rather quick and somewhat merciful execution, but this was not a swift death. It took 11 swings from the axe before Margaret Pole's head was removed from her body. One account stated that the first swing of the axe went into her shoulder instead of her neck. Another account stated that Margaret was chased around the block with the axe. Spanish ambassador Eustace Chapuis stated that the executioner was, quote, a wretched and blundering youth who hacked her head and shoulders to pieces in the most pitiful manner. After the bloody ordeal, Margaret's remains were buried in the Tower Chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula.